Hello and welcome to an updated guide on how to play the Demogorgon. If you didn't know, I've been a Demogorgon main since he initially came out back in 2019, and I also made a guide video for him back then, but obviously since, Demo's received some changes, and I've also gained 4 more years of experience playing him, so this new guide will cover absolutely everything that you need to know to play him. So to start, we're going to quickly go over his power and basic stats. The Demogorgon moves at 4.6 meters per second and has a standard 32 meter tear radius. Demo's power is called Of the Abyss, and this allows him to traverse the map through his portals, as well as perform a leaping attack from a distance. Demo has 6 available portals, it can have up to 7 with add-ons. After traversing, the Demogorgon gains the undetectable status effect for 5 seconds, and the cooldown for traversing is quite good at only 10 seconds. Something that might not be so obvious, however, is the difference between white and yellow portals. So to put it simply, the yellow portals are active and do things, and the white ones are inactive and don't do anything. Portals are inactive, white, by default, and serve no purpose other than to just show the demo where he can teleport to. Survivors cannot see, hear, nor interact with these portals. However, once a portal has been teleported through, it becomes active, yellow, and this means that they can now detect any nearby survivors, but also may be sealed by them as well. Keep in mind that yellow portals are spawned into the world, and this means that survivors can now see and hear them. One more thing to note is that you can only tell if someone is near your active portals while you're holding Shred. The Shred is Demo's special attack, and when performed, will send you leaping forward 11 meters, able to hit survivors, but also break any pallets or breakable walls in your way. It takes 1 second to fully charge a Shred, however you only have to charge your power to 65%, aka when you hear Demo hiss, to actually do a Shred. These are called baby shreds, and while they won't take you the full 11 meters, they're still very useful in small loops, and you'll get a lot of hits with them. While in a shred, Demo moves at 460% movement speed. This means that he's easily able to still hit survivors using exhaustion perks like Sprint Burst or Life. Something that might not be obvious, however, is that you actually can slightly steer while in a shred, so definitely make use of this, as it can be the difference in whether or not you get a hit or you whiff. While holding a shred, you're slowed down to 96.5% movement speed. Keep in mind that a running survivor moves at 100% movement speed, so if you hold it for long enough, eventually you'll fall out of shred range. Shredding from an elevated surface, however, can dramatically increase the distance you can cover, but at the cost of not being able to hit survivors that are below you. Just keep an eye out for all the invisible walls. So how do you use the shred effectively? The number one thing that you always need to keep in mind is to try and force survivors to run a path that gives you a straightforward shot at them. The survivor's only way to stay 100% safe from your shred is to put objects in between them and you. So to demonstrate what I mean, we have these junk loops. If you're rounding the corner with the pallet, you risk getting stunned or the survivor rounding the next quick corner to the right. But if you run it the opposite way, you have this nice clear path to fly down and hit them, and this is the approach that you want to be using in every single situation. Another key thing to look out for is when survivors vault windows. Just like it is with Huntress, survivors who vault windows in front of you are free hits, and this is because they lock themselves in the vaulting animation, which means that they cannot juke until the animation finishes, which means you know 100% where to aim. Now, something that I didn't touch on in my previous guide was how to effectively aim the shred, because there's more to it than just simply aiming at the survivor. Demo's shred has a massively wide hitbox, and understanding how to use it to your advantage is very important. The best example that I can give is when a survivor is running alongside a wall. Instead of aiming directly at the survivor, since Demo's hitbox is so wide, you want to aim slightly to the side of them, just enough so that the hitbox will still cover them hugging the wall, but also if they decide to juke away from the wall, effectively guaranteeing that you get the hit every time. Now, understanding just how far away from the wall to aim will come with experience, but you can also use this knowledge of the shred hitbox for when a survivor tries to unhook in front of you. Same thing, you want to take into account the width of the hitbox and aim pretty much to the side of the unhooking survivor, so that you don't accidentally hit the survivor that's on the hook and get nothing out of it. Probably the best aspect of Demo's shred, however, is how minuscule the cooldown is for canceling it. Coming in at a whopping 0.45 seconds, there practically isn't a cooldown for canceling a shred, effectively making Demo one of the best zoning killers in the entire game. If you don't know what zoning means, zoning is essentially when you apply a constant threat in order to manipulate where a survivor goes. Basically, anytime that you find a survivor approaching a window or pallet, or even just in the open, you can hold shred without worrying about anything, because if the survivor commits to it, you can send the shred, and if they don't and try to juke away from it, you can let go and get the basic attack. Keep in mind though that the survivors have 2 distinct indicators that let them know that you're able to shred them. Number 1 is the hissing sound that Demo makes, and number 2 is the fact that Demogorgon's stance changes and his face completely opens up. Alright, so live commentary, Bronx here. We're going to go over the zoning real quick here on Shack. Shack is a tile that you're going to run in most of your games. You need to know how to play it as Demo. So, when you're rounding Shack, you want to be forcing the survivor this way so that they round this this corner, and then have the option of the window or the pallet. And at this point, as you can just see, I readied my shred. You want to ready your shred as you're rounding this corner, and then read what the survivor will do. If they just take the window, you can just send the shred, and you can easily get the hit. If they don't, and they decide to juke, and maybe go for the pallet, then the whole time you're holding forward, you're pushing the pressure onto them. If they decide to commit to the pallet, you can cover that distance, and you can still hit them. So, if they know this, and they decide to, like, do this, and then, like, fake go for the pallet and sit behind the gen, once again, the whole time you're zoning them, and you're holding your shred, and you're walking towards them, and as long as you have a little bit of patience, and don't jump the gun, you can just walk up to them at this point, and then just hit them here at the window, or at the gen, rather, and get the free hit. So this is zoning the survivor. This is what you want to do every single time you're at shack, and also at any loop basically that has a window. Like, say this person's running to this window, when they're approaching it, we're gonna ready shred right here, and then it's, once again, if they take the window, we can send the shred and we can hit them. And if they juke and they run to the right, you hold your shred, and you can either send the shred there or just let it go, walk up to them, and get an attack. Alright, let's move on to the more advanced shred stuff. Another way to utilize his zoning potential and shred cooldown, or lack thereof, is to fake shredding pallets. How you do this is super simple. All you do is walk up to the pallet, ready your shred, and stare at it for a second. Most survivors will just assume that you're going to break it and then start preemptively running away. And then once you don't actually, ideally, now they're in a dead zone with nothing to use, and you can easily hit them. Next, when you're chasing at shack, you have one of the rare occasions where you can actually use the hissing sound as a threat and trick survivors. When rounding this corner, the survivor can choose to either vault the window, continue running to the pallet side, or just leave entirely. Something that I like to do, which works more often than not, is ready the shred before I make it to the corner, which makes Demo hiss, subsequently making the survivor think that I'm going to round that corner and shred them. So to avoid this, they decide to vault back into shack, but in reality, I fake it and return back to the doorway, and then from there, the survivor is basically screwed. This is a little trick and obviously doesn't work every time, but it's always good to keep survivors guessing. Okay, getting away from the zoning aspect, this next one might seem pretty obvious, but you want to be pre-charging your shred before rounding corners. If you practice this enough, you'll be able to get the timing down perfectly and immediately shred at survivors the second you round that corner, and this can get you so many hits that you wouldn't otherwise have enough time for. Next, you can do what is called a car tech, where on specific cars, while shredding, you won't collide with them and you will instead slide off of them. I don't know why this is, but essentially, if you angle your shred slightly in the direction that you want to go, you'll slide off the car and finish the rest of the shred on the side of it, which can be very useful since most players won't expect this and you can surprise them before they can react. Next, Demo can hit survivors who are on the other side of a gap with a shred, but not bridge the gaps, most of the time. On the game map, you can bridge this gap if you hug this wall on the right, and in the preschool at this hole in the floor, but only from this side. You cannot from the other side, and I don't know why. Another thing you can do is what I would call a shred tech, I guess, which is basically an advanced version of a lunge tech, and I feel like I'm speaking a different language right now. A lunge tech is something that any killer can do, and it's where you lunge to an elevated ledge, fall off while experiencing the missed attack cooldown, and then continue back in the opposite direction when you land. You do this to kill your forward momentum from the fall, and it basically serves as a little shortcut. Demo can do this exact same thing but with his shred. You just have to know the exact shred distance to effectively do it, but if you do know it, you can really make up for some lost distance in a chase. Alright, moving on to the portals now. Demo's portals are a very useful tool for maintaining map control, and if you don't use them and simply walk to get around the map, you're not doing yourself any favors. I see so many Demo players that just completely neglect the portals, and it honestly drives me insane. First, obviously the portals are used to get across the map very fast, but there's more to them than just that. Like we discussed earlier, Demo receives 5 seconds of undetectable after emerging from a portal, and this can be used to get the jump on unsuspecting survivors at gens, and in some cases even grab them. Additionally, the detection range for active portals is 4 meters, and this can really help you when you're desperately trying to find survivors or monitor if they're on a gen or totem. To place your portals effectively and efficiently though, you're going to want to keep in mind a few things. Number 1. Portals emit noises out to 8 meters, so make sure you're not placing them too close to things. This includes the noises that you make while crawling out of one. Number 2. When teleporting, there's a static map-wide sound that plays for all survivors no matter where they are, and this is why you want to be strategic with your placements, because if placed well, survivors will have to guess whether you're really close to them or entirely across the map. This leads me into number 3. Denying line of sight for when you emerge. As long as you are at least 8 meters away and also behind something to conceal you while you crawl out of the portal, then the survivors will have no indication of your whereabouts, and the 5 seconds of undetectable is more than enough to get to where you're going stealthily. And number 4. Grass in DBD is becoming more and more scarce as time goes on, but if you can't necessarily hide your portal behind a wall and you have to put it in the open, you can use the grass on the map to help conceal them, and while this isn't obviously the best option, it still is better than nothing and could save your portal from being spotted and sealed, saving you a ton of time. So where do you want to be placing your portals though? You want to be placing your portals mainly around generators, but also to simply establish map control. When looking to set up a portal near a generator, look around to see if there's any other gens nearby, and if there are, try to find the best spot in between both of them for that portal. This way you maximize the potential for that portal, making it still useful if the survivors manage to complete one of those two gens. Another general rule to follow is to always try and have at least one portal on each end of the map. Demo is one of the few killers that can travel across the entire map in less than 5 seconds, and you need to be taking advantage of this where you can. One key benefit to playing Demogorgon is his ability to easily traverse maps with multiple floors, such as RPD, Midwich, or the game, and this is why Demo isn't really a map-dependent killer. Survivors are obviously limited to the staircases and layout of the map, but thanks to his portals, Demo isn't, and can quickly bypass all of this and simply teleport up and down floors while still moving across the map. One more little bit of advice is to not spend too much time at the start of the game setting up portals. Ideally, you want to place maybe 1 or 2 where you spawn and then proceed across the map to start chasing survivors before they immediately slam 3 gens on you. This way, as the match progresses and survivors naturally venture to your spawn side of the map, you already have portals in that area and can quickly get back to it if you need to. So in summary, you want to place portals in between gens where possible, hide them behind things to conceal yourself while using them, and always try to establish some map control with a portal on each end of the map. Alright, so with the basics of the portals out of the way, these are some more advanced ways to get the most out of them. First off, I want to talk about doubling up portals and what that means. When you double up portals, you are essentially placing a second portal in the same area to ensure that even if your active portal that's already there gets sealed, you still have a backup inactive portal there ready to go. Think of these as insurance portals. You want to utilize this at crucial generators that you don't want getting completed or just a favorable part of the map that you want to always have access to. Another thing you can do is what I like to call bait teleporting, and this is where you have suspicion that a survivor is lurking near you, but you don't know exactly where and can't afford to waste your time searching for them. How you do this is to simply teleport to the closest portal you have and then immediately turn around and return to where you just were. The hiding survivor will be watching you from behind cover, so when they see you teleport, this will bait them into leaving their hiding spot, and ideally you can catch them off guard. Keep in mind though that the Demogorgon will always face the exact direction that he's teleporting to when crawling into the portal, so if you're facing the corner of the map, for example, it's going to be quite clear what you're trying to do, whereas if you face the majority of the map, it's much more believable that you're actually leaving the area. Next thing you can do is guard both exit gates with the portal tracking that we mentioned earlier. Now, you can't place portals within 4 meters of an exit gate, but this is completely fine because the detection range will cover up that distance, so as long as you place each portal as close as you possibly can to each gate, get them activated, and then never let go of holding shred, it is impossible for survivors to open that gate without you knowing. Use this in a 1v1 after you've closed hatch, and unless that survivor has a key, there's no way you can lose. Alright, now I'm just going to rapid fire a bunch of miscellaneous tips, tricks, and information at you. Active portals can track survivors hiding in lockers. They can also track survivors underneath them, but not above them. When it comes to breaking a pallet, if you ever have any distance whatsoever between you and the pallet, shredding it will be faster, but if you're right in front of it, kicking it will be faster. Survivors walking atop or sealing an active portal suffer from the oblivious status effect, so if you're close to someone that you can track with your portal, you can walk up to them without them knowing and potentially even grab them off of it. It takes one survivor 12 seconds to seal a portal, with each additional survivor decreasing that time down to 6 seconds when all 4 survivors are sealing it. You can fake placing a portal on a downed survivor to bait any lurking flashlight slavers to come out and reveal themselves. When a survivor is holding an item and they queue up a vault, the item will momentarily disappear, so when you're looking to shred someone, focus on the item. If you don't see it disappear, it means that they're not vaulting. Demo can get launched into the air off some perfectly angled shreds at specific locations, and while in the air, you can strafe big time. While you're traversing the upside down, you can still hear every sound as if you were on the ground, so still pay attention as you might hear an injured survivor healing or a gen being worked on as you pass by. You can also hear hatch too. Keep in mind that once you place a portal, it is there until it gets sealed. You can't continuously place portals like hack and place traps, so be wise with them. I would also recommend that you do not place every single one of your portals and instead keep one portal in your back pocket in case you need to go somewhere. Shredding pallets and breakable walls has some egregious auto-aim to it, so bear this in mind. If your feet stop touching the ground at any given moment, your shred will automatically be cancelled. You can shred a survivor at this spot on area crows. Placing portals directly on generators can be a useful thing, especially if you need to 3-gen, but I would recommend that you try to conceal them first over doing this, and only look at this as a situational fallback option. Okay, and finally, let's go over Demo's add-ons and a build to run, but I'm not going to spend too much time on the build part just due to how frequently perks and metas change in this game. But as far as the add-ons go, Demo currently has 3 that stand out. Barb's Glasses, Black Heart, and Leprose Lichen. Barb's Glasses makes you destroy pallets 15% faster with your shred, Black Heart reduces the shred hit cooldown also by 15%, and Leprose Lichen gives you a ton of information every time you teleport, showing you the auras of all survivors with a lingering effect. You're going to get value from Barbs and Black Heart every single game, and you can also use them every single game, with them being yellow and brown rarity. Like it not so much with it being an ultra rare, but it still is definitely worth picking up in your blood webs. In my previous guide, I highly recommended Rat Liver, but since Demo's base speed while holding shred has been increased and Rat Liver subsequently nerfed because of that, it's really not worth it anymore. I'd only recommend it still if you really want to just hold shred and zone people all day, otherwise you don't need it. If you still haven't gotten the shred quite down yet, I would recommend you run Muse Guts, as it reduces the shred miss cooldown by 11% and you also get an extra portal too. The rest of the add-ons are fairly mediocre and either not too impactful or only good in specific builds, but feel free to still experiment with them. Okay, very quickly, this is my favorite all-around build to run. Barbecue helps you make smart teleports with its aura reading. Save the Best for Last can make Demo extremely lethal and he can preserve stacks for it very easily. Pop is a great gen regression perk that also synergizes quite well with Demo's portals near gens, and Ultimate Weapon, as of now, is an excellent tracking perk. Once Ultimate Weapon gets nerfed, you can swap it out for Nowhere to Hide, as you'll be kicking gens for Pop anyways. Now, you might hear people say that Save the Best for Last is actually a bad perk on Demo because it promotes you to not use your shred, but contrary to that, I think it's still one of his best perks, and it ultimately just comes down to your playstyle. As long as you're not throwing to get stacks or are still new to Demo and learning the shred, then it's just as good as it's ever been, if not better, in my opinion. At the end of the day though, run what you find fun and what fits your playstyle the most. So there we have it. That is everything that I can think of that will help you become the best Demogorgon player that you can be. I hope you could learn something from this, and if you did, drop the video a like as it helps to get it out to more people. Feel free to stop by my Twitch, twitch.tv/Bronx, and ask any questions you might have. I'd be happy to answer them. And also check out my boy JT. Thank you for helping me record the clips. There's his Twitch as well, asapxvii. And thank you all for watching. Hello and welcome on how to play fucking hell. Increase the distance you can cover, but at the cost of not being able. You can also use this knowledge of the shred hitbox for fucking hell. Shredding pallets and breakable walls has some egregious auto aim. Oh, fucking hell.